There it is! Hello and welcome to Superconnectivity. I am your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is here is the man, Eke Homo.
What? Phil.
Eke Homo, here's the man.
Okay.
Okay.
Or your fancy Latin.
Yeah, well, there's a very famous painting called the Eke Homo, which is the presentation of Jesus by Pontius Pilate before the crowd. And he says, "Here is the man, Eke Homo." I am putting you on par with my Messiah, Philip. You should be honored.
I am.
You should be honored.
I am, but it feels like too much responsibility.
Yeah. Yes. There we go. So, Philip, this is a day of great import. January 12th, 2018. Within the Marvel Universe, we have both good news and bad news. Which would you like to discuss first?
Why don't we start with the bad news so we don't end on a sad note?
Okay, well, here's the thing. I got to do this, man. And Lilith can bite my head off later for it.
Uh-oh.
So the dominoes falling in the world, and Stan Lee was not immune.
Oh boy.
Stan Lee has been accused of sexual misconduct. Now, let us put all the caveats that are appropriate within this. First off, this story is from the Daily News, which is about on par with the National Enquirer. That doesn't mean that. Now, that said, the National Enquirer has been right. They have broken salacious news. When it comes to salacious news, they are ones that break it. That said, the initial accusations came from a company that is having disputes with Stan Lee. Now, for those who will recall, a few years back, the fact that Stan Lee is, in fact, not the jovial, kindly gentleman that we all know from his persona, but is, in fact, an ornery old cuss, came out when his assistant, a personal assistant to the Lee family, basically said, "They're maniacs, they're crazy, they're yelling at me all the time." Although, to me, as a person who works in the admin field, I'm like, are you just a whiny little person who doesn't understand that you're working for someone and that part of being a personal assistant is you find them?
And find me one employer who's never had a at least one employee complain about them.
Well, exactly. Now, this case is a little more dark and twisted because it does come into the idea of sexuality within the bad behavior. But what I'll say is it's interesting because the assistant's complaint of bad behavior were all about impossible tasks put before him. Whereas this is more about the idea that when Stan Lee is around his nurses, he is inappropriately, he's being inappropriately suggestive and sexual, and another accusation surfaced just today of a masseur who is saying that Stan Lee shot his web shooters, if you will, in front of her during the event, which is inappropriate without a doubt. And this is an actual accuser making this statement, not a company already in a conflict with Mr. Lee on the subject. It's hard, but there's two tracks that I take on this story. Track one is that it is probably false because although we are getting these statements now, Stan Lee, unlike Julius Schwartz, who was DC's evil Bizarro Stan Lee, does not have a history. As it turns out, Julius Schwartz was pretty awful dealing with female creators and female coworkers that he dealt with, and often was inappropriate in his behavior. This is well documented. You can go to the marysue.com, and they do track all of the accusations against Julius Schwartz. You do not see these accusations against Stan Lee, and and honestly, they're being really detailed. They're saying, here's every accusation against a prominent comic book creator. That Stan Lee doesn't make the list tells me that even in his 1970, I'm the PG Hugh Hefner phase, because Stan Lee went through the I'm the PG Hugh Hefner phase. You know, Zodiac medallions, chest hair, and unbuttoned to the navel silk shirts and all. Stan Lee was definitely that kind of guy, but clearly it came from a place that was not of harassment. And so that is why I am disinclined to believe these accusations. You know, the statement that just came out with the masseur, I don't know the story. I am going to be honest here, and this is going to be that revelation that is that prejudice that all humans have. When it comes to happy endings and massages, and the question of transactional interactions and non-transactional interactions, I think you can find yourself in a spot where someone who had agreed to a transactional interaction now sees an opportunity to make additional funding from that transactional interaction by declaring it no longer transactional.
Let me translate: blackmail.
Well, to an extent, yes. You know, blackmail after the fact, if you will. And so these are qualities that make me question it. Now, that said, there is another factor to Stan Lee's story that I think we must be aware of, which is his advanced age.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I'm like, either they're lying, or I mean, at 95 and those web shooters are still working. Good job.
Well, no, that's not what I meant.
Oh, okay.
So, trust me, web shooters can work your whole life.
I know, but sometimes people have.
Yeah, sometimes they can, but I'm not going to assume that is the excuse, because I think that's a poor excuse. But what does happen, especially if there is cognitive dysfunction, is you begin to enter a state where things you will do in your cognitive dysfunctional state are not what you would do if you were lucid. And of course, the big horror of this is that a guy like Stan Lee, he may be lucid, 8 hours of the day, which means he goes to the Comic-Cons, he's there, he's this good old Stan Lee, and he's as lucid as he's ever been, and he can write and he can do what he does to the extent that he ever did in those periods of time. But at a certain point, he starts to sundown, and then, the Hyde takes over. And Hyde is Joe Fixit. Hyde is the guy who, if you remember from the Peter David run, when Banner is in his college room and he sexually assaults a co-ed, and you see Mr. Fixit there, Joe Fixit there, doing it in his memory, because his dissociative identity disorder had existed at that point. Bruce Banner is a sexual assaulter. It is a thing that can occur. A person in that state. Now, I'm not going to say Stan Lee is in that state. I'm not going to say Stan Lee is not in that state. I think that definitely informs the conversation on a much deeper level.
Yeah, because I mean, there were similar. I mean, not similar, but I mean, there were reports of George H.W. Bush recently, groping women or patting them on the butt. I mean, he's of advanced age also. So.
Yeah, although in truth, some of those stories go back to like the 80s.
Oh, yeah. But,
so he's just a guy who likes to grab women by the butt, which is not appropriate. As much people might want to say, oh, in a different time it was tolerated. It's like, yes, it was tolerated, but it still was never thought of as appropriate.
No,
which is a great thing.
But like with a lot of things back in that day, it was like, well, if we don't speak, it's all right as long as we don't speak about it ever.
Well, no, I mean, I think when you look at Mad Men, you get this idea that, yes, it was tolerated what a man might do.
Mm-hmm.
It was never understood to be, hey, it's totally cool.
Mm-hmm.
It was just tolerated. There's a difference between tolerating something and it being appropriate. And now, George, and of course, what it comes down to is this question of, from the perpetrator's perspective, it's what harm did I do? I grabbed your butt. That shouldn't be the end of the world for you. But for some people, I suppose it is not that you grabbed my butt. It is that there is a lifetime of dehumanizations I've endured that are now brought whole in this moment.
Plus, I mean, people could be fearful. I mean, if it's someone you don't know, I mean, you don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, yeah. Well, when you get to people you don't know, that's a whole other bag of hammers,
But
everyone knows who George W. Bush is. When he's grabbing your butt, you know who grabs your butt.
You might not know him personally, though.
Well, yeah, that's true.
No, but this whole Stan Lee thing, all I can think of is three things, and all of them depress me. One, it's true about Stan Lee, and he's a lech. Although I'm not sure, I just thought of something that may disprove this. But two, like you were talking about, well, quote unquote blackmail, and if that's true, that depresses me too, because if they find out these people are lying, then that casts doubt on anyone who comes forward with a real story later on down the road. And three, like you were saying, maybe Stan Lee has cognitive issues, and but don't you find it funny that you've never heard any of these rumors for 95 years, but once, how do I put this? Now that his wife is gone and he doesn't have like an alibi or a witness per se, that all of a sudden these accusations are coming to light?
Well, no, because what I'll say is that I'm pretty sure Julia Schwartz had a wife, and the fact of the matter is that these allegations existed for years.
For Stan Lee?
No, for Julia Schwartz.
Oh yeah.
But I'm going to say Julia Schwartz is as big in the DC universe is as big of a name as Stan Lee. And he was probably never really a Stan Lee.
Mm-hmm.
Stan Lee has its own negatives as well. He is basically the Thomas Edison of comic books, where as many people want to shout triumph for Stan Lee, there's just as many people that are there to say, he's a hack, he's awful. There are enough people that would have been more than happy to tell your tale of Stan Lee as a lech. And like I said, I don't use the term lech because, as a lech myself, I think lechery is about consensual sexual contact, not about non-consensual sexual contact.
So does that make Julia Schwartz Tesla?
No, Julia Schwartz is Julia Schwartz. I don't read DC that much. I can't speak of who Julia Schwartz was.
Yeah,
I know that he was like the publisher. I don't know if he really was a creative. Stan Lee arguably is a creative. Even if all he did was write down the word Spider-Man and give it to Jack Kirby or Steve Ditko and said, make a book about this. It's a man who's a spider or a spider who's a man. I don't know yet, but do it. He wrote down the word Spider-Man, No matter how little you want to put him into the story, he's in the story. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the case for Julia Schwartz. He's not the guy who created Superman. He's the guy who sold Superman. So I don't know if Julius Schwartz ever really got to that Stan Lee level of honor that self-promotion got Stan Lee to. But I do know that Julius Schwartz apparently was a real bad guy to hang out with in the office if you did not have a junk in your under. Well, I don't want to say junk in your trunk, but you know, if you weren't a dude, you didn't want to hang out with Julius Schwartz. Although probably he was pretty much a jerk to dudes too, just not in that other way.
But that's what goes back to my point. Like, I mean, to a big amount of the public, I mean, Julius Schwartz isn't a household name. Stan Lee is more well known to the world, and we have heard nothing about these accusations.
But for both good and ill.
For
both good and ill.
Yeah.
For both good and ill. He is a well-known name for good and ill. Everyone knows who Stan Lee is. Not everyone likes that they know who Stan Lee is.
Yeah, but I'm saying we've never really heard about accusations of this nature until this week, right? Until this
week. Until this week, this is when this comes out. Which makes me think if it is true, it may be tied to cognitive dysfunction. Mm-hmm. And if it's untrue, it may. And this is the thing. Because the stories are being broke by the Daily Mail. Just to give you an understanding, the Daily Mail doesn't care if they publish a false accusation. Because they're going to make just as much money off of, and all these people were liars, as they will off of, and this beloved figure is an awful person. Mm-hmm. Because their money is in the dysfunction, not in the story. So when so they'll publish a false accusation because when it turns out to be false, it's just as big a story for them to tell, and they got it first.
Excelsior, Stan Lee vindicated.
Well, that's the thing. It kind of reminds me of the story we got, and especially this most recent one about the masseur. It reminds me of the story we got about George Takei a few months ago.
Oh my.
Yeah, about some person who got drunk at his house and woke up naked and basically, but the thing is, here's the thing. When you get drunk and wake up naked, it is possible you took off your own pants.
Yeah.
People forget that. It's like that can happen.
I know.
And we had one accusation, but then we didn't get a bunch of other accusations. Now, this is the reverse, where we have one accusation coming from a company that has a lawsuit pending against Stan Lee, saying he's harassing my people, and then one solo accusation after that. Now, we may get 10 more accusations. So I'm not going to let Stan Lee off the hook. That's the thing. I'm not going to let him off the hook just because of everything I've said. Mm-hmm. But right now, I need more from the accusers to say, yes, I will never read another Marvel comic again because Stan Lee is tangentially related to all of them.
Well, and two, let's say, all right, hypothetically, let's say all the accusations are true and Stan Lee is this, horrible, molester. Should you boycott Marvel? Because who are you hurting? You're really not hurting Stan Lee. He's made his he's made his bills. He's got a good
you
boycott the comic. You boycott the comics. Who you hurting? The writers, the artists, the editors who are there now.
Exactly. And especially if you want to take that Tesla attack on it and say he didn't do much to create these characters anyway.
And especially too, you even have women writers at Marvel, especially. So it's like, okay, say Stan Lee was this sexual predator, and this woman writing a comic says, "Well, wait, I had nothing to do with this."
Yeah, well, exactly. I don't think that and here's the thing: if Gail Simone comes out tomorrow and says, when I worked at Marvel, I met Stan Lee, and he was a real creeper, and he really went over the line with me. Mm-hmm. Oh, fudge on a cracker, that's Gail Simone.
Mm-hmm.
If someone else comes along and says, look, when I was there, this is what happened, and it doesn't have to go all the way to something horrible. It just has to be that point where we go, oh yeah, okay, I see that, you know.
So all these accusations, these are like, are they supposedly happened recently? Is that what they were? Is that what they're saying? Okay.
Yeah, everything that's been said, it's like in the last, which is why I say, if they are true, there may be a question about cognitive dysfunction.
True, because I mean, again, I'm either someone's lying or there's cognitive dysfunction because there's no other. I mean, there could come down the road, but right now there's no other accusations from the past, and people don't, unless there's some kind of cognitive thing, people need to start doing this at 95.
Well, except for cognitive dysfunction. If there's cognitive dysfunction, then all of a sudden, that's actually my biggest fear. Man, I know who I am in my id, and I fear that day that my id gets to be the boss of me, because I know he's not a nice guy. I'm a nice guy. You're gonna love me because that's who I actually wind up with between id and superego. It's actually very good, but id, it's not the nicest guy in the world, and I don't want him out there. He's good in a lot of ways. He definitely informs my life, makes my life much more fun and more enjoyable. But he's supposed to be back there.
Yes.
Because, and this is what I say about the difference between a lech and a predator. Is a lech, it's about consent. And you can be all about all kinds of crazy, fun consent stories. And, oh, man, if someone wanted to do this, that would be the bomb, as the kids say nowadays. But, if someone doesn't want to do that, I don't want to do that with them. That would be awful.
Yeah, I don't get
because
that.
I
don't get what people. I mean, it's a sickness, I guess, but I don't get when people force other people to do stuff.
Well, it's like I mean, even the idea that I have power, and so you're going to consent. It doesn't seem that much fun to me because why do you want to be there if not everyone's having fun?
Exactly.
It's like taking someone who can't eat gluten to a donut shop and making them eat a donut, and it's like, isn't that delicious? They go, it tastes really good, but I'm allergic to gluten. It's gonna hurt me later, Yeah. Exactly. You don't take a person who's allergic to gluten to a donut shop because that's just rude. It's rude, as Michelle Tanner would say. How rude. Okay. So that's enough of the bad news in Marvel conversation. Shall we talk about the good news? Because there was a lot of good news this week.
Yes. So we're going to go to the announcement of the movie that's finally getting made.
Oh, well, that's good news too. Man, see, so this is about levels of good. What is your good news? So the good news. So Phil, this is because what my good news was the thing that just broke just recently. But yes, this is great news. I'm really excited about it. Phil, why don't you tell us what it is?
That they're finally, I guess, listening to the people, making a Black Widow movie.
Not only are they making a Black Widow movie, because it come out like, it's tentative, it's really being an idea. And then like 2 days later, and now we have a writer. Some lady named Jack something or other. And here's what I'm going to tell you. This is what gives me hope for my future, is that this lady has only like 2 more credits on IMDb than I do. And it's like she did some shorts. She did that classic of American cinema, Olaf's Frozen Adventure for Disney, which shows you she was already in the business. She got that gig. She did that gig. She did a made-for-TV movie. They said, and then some freaking suit said, let's take that TV movie, that TV show Christmas special you made. We're gonna put it in front of our next movie. And I'm sure she was like, it's a 22-minute film. That's not a short. That's a sitcom. I'm sure she understood what was going on, but some suit at Disney did not, and led to all kinds of backlash. But from what I hear, it's a fun, cute movie. Did you ever see Olaf's Frozen Christmas Adventure?
Yes.
Was it enjoyable?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't see it before Coco. Did you see it like as a standalone?
No. We saw it on TV.
You saw it on TV. Okay, yeah. Because for people who saw it during Coco, it was just a nightmarish hellscape because it's like, when is Coco starting? But so she wrote that. She wrote a couple of other things. She is currently in production on a remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels called Nasty Women, which I'm excited about. Honestly, I'm actually almost a little bit more excited about the idea of a Dirty Rotten Scoundrels remake than I am about a Black Widow film. Because to me, a Black Widow film, it's cool, it's great. I have no problem with it. I'm not sure where they're going with it, especially since they've been going all cosmic. And to do a Black Widow film, it's like, and now we're back on Earth.
I was thinking about this. I have an idea for a Black Widow movie, especially now that the Fox stuff is in play.
Mm-hmm.
There was a storyline, I think it was in the 80s, where like this Russian sub fired on Magneto, so he like basically just like crushed the sub and killed like, I don't know, like 150 Russian sailors or whatever.
Yeah, I remember that. So
you bring in Magneto, he kills these Russians. So the Russians, it could be like a period piece, like however many years ago, and they send the Black Widow in to try to take out Magneto, and she has to figure out how to take him out without using metal bullets or knives or
and not for nothing. I mean, that was
maybe you could even use it to kind of build up, kind of go all X-Files and be like, maybe like the governments of the world conspired to keep mutants out of the public perception. So you could be like, oh, that's why mutants that's why we haven't seen mutants before.
Well, that was S.H.I.E.L.D.'s whole thing. Mm-hmm. Not for nothing. I mean, I don't know if it was intentional, but it certainly worked out that way. Disney created this great excuse if they ever got stuff back to explain why you didn't know about it. Because they very much established that Hydra S.H.I.E.L.D. was keeping the lockdown on stuff. Now, what's interesting that you make that mention, because of course that is essentially the plot of the first Avengers vs. X-Men.
Yes.
Not AVX that the millennial kids are reading, but the original Avengers vs. X-Men miniseries.
Yes, that's
many years ago. That was fantastic. That one came along with the Avengers vs. Fantastic Four. And then there was that great one they did of the X-Men versus Mephisto, I think it was, where they just did a bunch of people fighting the X-Men because it was all about Mephisto trading souls. I have no idea how that one ended.
I was gonna say, didn't they do like a Fantastic? Did they do a Fantastic Four versus Mephisto too?
Well, I think it started with Fantastic Four versus Mephisto. And so what it was like Mephisto going through a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm.
So it starts with, and it's about him trading up these souls. And it starts out the first time with the Fantastic Four. It was Fantastic Four versus Mephisto. And he gets Susan Richards to give her soul. And then you go through this whole thing about the X-Men facing the Mephisto. And then what you have is Rogue basically stealing everyone's soul, and then Mephisto stealing Rogue's soul, so he gets all the X-Men, and then it goes to X Factor, and that's because it was this thing where Mephisto says to Reed Richards, "Only an unknown number could defeat me." He says he must have meant X Factor. Because he's Reed Richards and he's the smartest man in the world. And then you get X Factor, and then you get Jean Grey giving her soul to Mephisto so that all the X-Men can be free. And I didn't get the last issue, so I have no idea how it ends. But that was classic. I mean, that was during this really great time in the 90s, and we had a bunch of great crossovers. But one of them was, the two of them, first there was X-Men vs. Fantastic Four, which happened during the Mutant Massacre, where Reed Richards had to decide if he was going to risk killing Kitty to save Kitty Pryde. And then Dr. Doom, of course, says, "I will do it, for I am Doom." And then that one I know how it ends, because big Fantastic Four nerd. And then you had Avengers versus X-Men, which was really great. Which just around this idea that, because this was when Magneto had joined the X-Men, it's like, no, I'm the good guy now. And it's like, no, you're still killed a bunch of Russian dudes, dude. Not cool. not cool at all. And and that was that story. But yeah, so Black Widow as a movie, that would be awesome. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone's going to say that Black Widow as a movie isn't going to be awesome. I would love it if we got Natasha and Melinda May teaming up as a buddy cop. I think that's a great buddy cop. One's stoic, one's even more stoic. Now they're going to kick your butt. It would be nice because Melinda May and Natasha suddenly becomes the fun, silly one compared to Melinda May. It's like, are you even a spy, Natasha? Yeah. Like, I do what I need to do. I want to see that dynamic. I think the Scarlett Johansson Melinda May dynamic would be awesome. The Scarlett Johansson Ming-Na Wen dynamic would be fantastic. Natasha Melinda May, but yes, I confuse these people all the time. It would be fantastic. I'm looking forward to it. I think Marvel has finally decided, let's do it. I don't know if they just have like one more movie with Scarlett, because that was always the issue with Scarlett Johansson is, do they use Scarlett as this really great supporting character in everyone else's movie, or do they give her her own movie? Mm-hmm. And that's the tough thing. And what some people have said that maybe what some people suggested that maybe the Black Widow film will be the female Avengers film, will be the A-Force film. That it's going to be all these BA ladies in Marvel coming together with Natasha to do something. Mm-hmm. Maybe because all the dudes got freaking zapped with the anti-dude ray, It only affects dudes, man, and that's why Natasha has to save the day. Because all the dudes are sidelined.
You can bring in.
I have no idea.
You can bring in X-Women, Storm. Well,
yeah. Well, I mean, although to that extent, that's the interesting thing is that Fox is still developing a bunch of mutant shows.
Yeah, but
which find, which is an interesting thing and it's the same with Sony developing Venom, because it is this point that yes, Marvel is taking over stuff, but all these people still want to, lick everything.
Yeah, but I mean,
they want to rub their butt on stuff.
Yeah, but Disney did buy the Fox stuff. They didn't buy Sony. They just made a deal for Spider-Man.
Yeah. Yeah, but Sony is still developing stuff there, and for what it's worth, there is the very real possibility that this deal could fall through. It is still a very real possibility that they may not let Fox be sold to Disney. Here's what I'll say: all I want is for Disney to get the Fantastic Four back. I don't even care about the X-Men. Heck with you, X-Men. No one likes you. Except for Perich and everyone else in the world, but me.
Well, Hellfire.
I want the Fantastic Four back at Marvel. I want Galactus. I want the Skrulls. And you know what I really want? You know what I want more than anything else? I want the Impossible Man.
There you go.
Back at Marvel. I want Pop-Upians. I want the idea of these crazy molecularly rearranging the species that can at will rearrange their molecules to be part of the Marvel universe. Because it is that idea of that thing that is dangerous but not controllable or defeatable. Mm-hmm. And I want that. I want Pop-Upians back in the Marvel universe. If for no other reason than because I think that Ms. Marvel needs that Pop-Upian level of power to be compared to. Ms. Marvel, not Captain Marvel. Mm-hmm. That's my take on that. So that's the good news is our good old Black Widow film is moving forward. The lady who did Olaf's Christmas Tale gave a good elevator pitch for what she would do. if she got Black Widow. And I think that's pretty cool. And I think it's interesting, the idea that, because basically you know what happened. Marvel said, well, Disney said, let's do this Black Widow thing. Everyone says, we've got one more film with ScarJo, after the next Infinity War. Let's do something with her.
Well, I mean, and recently, there have been a couple. There are a bunch of movies with female actions. Like action movies with female stars, and Marvel's probably like, well, hey, we already have Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow built in here. We're not utilizing her to her fullest. Why not? I mean, there's a market for it.
But what I'm saying is, what obviously happened is they said, okay, get all of our female writers in the room. Let's do all the elevator pitches. Said, here's ScarJo, here's Black Widow, here's, $50 million. Tell me a story. And she was the one who won. Because I'm sure she's not the only woman writer who got pulled into the room. Because they had to do a woman writer or director. They're not going to give this to Taika Waititi, blah, 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 blah. They're not giving it to Korg. They're going to give it to a woman to write and direct this film, and she's probably going to direct it too, because they want their own Patty Jenkins. And hey, good, bravo! Critics' Choice Award best action film goes to Wonder Woman. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it really was the best action film this year, but you know what? I congratulate her anyway. Because that's what good sportsmen do.
Yes.
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that was the one you thought was the best. That's who won, and you say, "Game well played. Game well played."
Yes.
That's my take. So Jack is going to do this film. It's JAC, which I assume is short for Jacqueline, or maybe she pronounces it Jace, like Jason the Wheeled Warriors. I don't know. But who remembers Jason the Wheeled Warriors?
Yes, I remember.
You remember? Yeah. It only had like 5 episodes. So
I thought it was more than only 5. I thought it was more than that.
No, maybe only 5 aired in Michigan. I don't know. There was only a few episodes.
I mean, there wasn't a ton, but I thought it was more than 5.
And they were like 15-minute episodes. They were like the Inhumanoids. They're basically toy commercials.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think they got a second season out of it.
Probably not. Yeah, I didn't see.
Honestly, for the life of me, I could not tell you the plot. I could not tell you the plot of Jason the Wheeled Warriors to save my life, except that I know that there was Jace, there was a guy with a beard, there was a little girl, and there were cars with buzzsaws on them. And I can't say for certain if the cars were sentient or not. And the villains were some sort of sentient plant-based car with buzzsaws.
Yes.
And that is the extent of my knowledge of that show.
That's as much as I can remember.
Yeah, it was no Silverhawks, is what I'm going to tell you. See, Inhumanoids, I could go for days on the Inhumanoids. Gem and the Holograms, obviously, that's like got canon really deep. But Jason the Wheeled Warriors was a beloved show, but a beloved show that existed for a period. Okay. Let's get to what I want to say is the really big news this week. Comic books.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
What is the biggest news in comic books today? What is the thing coming home to Marvel that actually has meaning for comic books?
Marvel reacquired the rights to Conan.
The Hyborian Age returns! They're doing this Avengers 1,000,000 BC. I don't know if that's out yet or not, but like 5 issues and I've completely missed them all. But think about that. The Hyborian Age is back at Marvel.
That is, I mean, I'm sure
the Serpent Crown set, or freaking Conan the Barbarian trapped in the 20th century. Just like me and David Walker talked, we both geeked out on that, and that That was just the best interview. I gotta say, man, that was like I was so happy talking to David Walker about Conan in the 20th century.
What about Conan in the present day, but he's like in the Savage Land?
You put Conan in the Savage Land. You put anyone in the Savage Land.
I mean, maybe for an arc or two, but then you could bring him out into the rest of the world, you know?
Conan's a city dweller. What's he going to want to do in the Savage Land? That's annoying to him. He wants to go to a place where there are freaking... You know, okay, he's not Wolverine, okay?
Beat up Kazar.
That's not even like his thing. Conan doesn't just fight just to fight.
Beat up the High
Conan
Evolutionary.
fights because that's what he... he'd kick the High Evolutionary's butt. I'm telling you right now. Freaking stream of data. I am now just data. It's like, yeah, it means you can be erased. You freaking...
Somehow get him to Asgard.
He fought Thor once, and I think he lifted the hammer.
Ooh!
I remember that when Thor fought, when in the what if Conan fought Thor. This is back when they could do all the what ifs with Conan. The what ifs with Conan were so fantastic. And I believe he lifts the hammer. I believe he like, and he's like, "What the heck? I don't want magic. Magic is stupid. I hate magic." Because he's Conan, he doesn't like magic, and he's like, and Thor's like, "Oh, dude, you're pretty awesome." It's like, I know, I'm freaking Conan. Conan was like Batman before Batman, you know. Except that Conan wasn't all full of himself about it. It's like, I'm Batman. He was just like, I don't know, man. I'm just good at what I do. I'm just a Sumerian fighting for survival, man. If I don't win the fight, I die. That's my world. If I don't win the fight, I die. That's a different world than, oh, maybe I'm going to go to jail if I don't win the fight. Or maybe I'm going to, like, you know, oh, have a broken leg. It's like, no, I will die. I will be a dead man if this fight does not end with me winning. So I need to win the fight. Conan's awesome. Conan, you know, every iteration of Conan is awesome. I love Conan. Or Conan. I don't know how you want to pronounce him. I want to pronounce him Conan, like Conan O'Brien. But Conan doesn't like that because he doesn't want to be associated with Conan. I know that they do Conan, but I think that's just because that's how Arnold Schwarzenegger pronounced it. I'm Conan the Barbarian. You know, that's not how Sumerians talk.
Hear the lamentations of their women.
Yeah, you know, exactly. I like Conan the Barbarian. I'm so happy he's back at Marvel. That is the kind of news that to me is like, that to me, that is as big of news, if not bigger news, than the idea that the movies can now make a Fantastic Four. And I love the Fantastic Four.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Marvel could do a Fantastic Four. Although at this point, I'm just like, oh, you just don't ruin it, okay? You know, when it comes to the Fantastic Four and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we're like, okay, don't ruin it. Just be careful. That's delicate. Don't break it. You know, it's like,
there you go. That's how you get Conan back. Franklin and the Molecule Man, bring him back.
There you go. Well, Conan rocks. Conan is amazing. I'm sorry. Conan the Barbarian is an amazing character in the Marvel Universe. And I've never read any of the actual novels, because I'm sure they all are all very, very bad. Just like the Fu Manchu novels and all the other pop cultural ephemera that Marvel bought and then made better. See, in many ways, Marvel was the first Disney. Because Marvel did what Disney is doing now. Marvel bought all this pop cultural ephemera. Fu Manchu, Conan the Barbarian, various characters and concepts. And then they integrated it into this amazing universe and made great stories with it. It doesn't matter whatever Fu Manchu used to be, because Shang-Chi is what Marvel took from that. You know, the Serpent Crown and Set is what Marvel took from Conan. Although Conan is a great character in and of himself, and I love him as a character, man. That was really like the first comic I really got into as a kid. Not the black and whites, but the color Conan comics. I loved those as a kid. you know, and that made me so happy. And then whenever I would read later Marvel books where they would talk about Conan, because that was part of their history, I was like, Conan, he's part of this. And now he's back. And that gives my little nerd heart such joy. That's all I got to say about that.
Nice. All right. Should we wrap that up here? Because we 10 minutes till Capes and Lunatics.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about Avengers and everything else when we get to and Black Panther.
Yes.
Oh, we'll get to Capes and Lunatics. But we're going to talk about Avengers because that was a good book.
Yeah, it was. Yes.
And I also read Deadpool 2. It was really good.
Oh yeah.
Deadpool was fantastic. Oh, man, that makes me love Deadpool even more. To the point where now I worry about what Ryan Reynolds is going to do in this next movie because I don't know if it can live up to the standards that the comic book is setting for Deadpool.
Well, he might be able to encounter Captain America here soon.
Well, not even kind of. It's just the idea of story and character. I think that what we're getting right now in Despicable Deadpool for character, especially this issue, which is such a beautiful talk issue, is so good. We're going to talk about that on Capes and Lunatics. Tune in, folks. Click that little subscribe button. Click the freaking bell. Because this is on YouTube now. There's a bell. You got to click that, kids. So you get that little pop-up saying, hey, those 2 crazy nuts, or those 3 crazy nuts, or those 4 crazy nuts are doing something. Tune in.
And if you're listening to us on the podcast, you should subscribe to our YouTube because we do like at least 2 a month YouTube exclusive shows. Like tomorrow morning, Charlie Esser and I are going to talk about his favorite version of Spider-Man.
The best version. The superior Spider-Man. It's right in the name. He's the superior one.
Oh, only on YouTube. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, go subscribe to YouTube.
Click the bell. Okay. You want that. You want to be woken up by that in the morning. You tell your Alexa, play podcast, Capes and Lunatics, Superior Spider-Man, Phil and Charlie. Thank you.
Alexa, I want to be woken by the smooth sound of Charlie Esser.
Who doesn't? Okay, but tune in tomorrow, kids, because that's what's coming up. Okay, Phil, how can they find you when they want to talk to you outside of the moments of our podcastery?
Well, you can get a hold of me, nightwingpdp@gmail.com. On Twitter, I am @nightwingpdp. And get a hold of the Capes and Lunatics for any of our shows, capesandlunatics@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and our voicemail. Just pick up your phone and dial 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES.
And, of course, always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our moms and pops once did as they traveled the Oregon Trail dying of dysentery. At superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, thank you, @gmail.com. And, of course, follow me on Twitter as I live tweet the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every Friday night at 9 o'clock in a mere hour's time from now, assuming it's on. @Charlie Esser, that's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle for quality. Oh, there's thoughts about Deacon in the new Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that who were his parents. It's as big of a mystery as who was Ray's parents, except this one actually matters because it's Marvel. We'll talk about that later. And thank you for connecting with us, ladies and gentlemen. Please super connect with us. You can always play the music earlier. I can talk over the music.
Okay.
I'm sure people. I'm sure people aren't just waiting to. I want to hear the music uninterrupted.
I don't want to feel like I don't want to feel like you're on the. I don't want you to think I'm like playing you off like they do on the Oscars.
You got to do that sometimes, Phil. You got to play me off.
He's thanking his third cousin. I got to play him off.
I'm trying to think of my third cousin's name.
But you said
have several.
But you said dysentery. Dysentery and Oregon Trail. We have to talk about Teen Titans movie trailer on Capes and Lunatics.
Best movie DC is making right now. You watch.